Megolvanen Melen, Yoistin here with another epic character history for you all. Today, we'll be talking about the heir of Feanor and the maker of the three Great Elven Rings, Celebrimbor. Born sometime in the years of the trees, or the early First Age, Celebrimbor was the son of Lúthien, who is the fifth son of Feanor. The name Celebrimbor means Fist of Silver in Sindarin Elvish, as he was the last of the mighty elven smiths of his time. In the First Age, it is likely that Celebrimbor dwelt in Himlad with his father Lúthien and his uncle Celegorm until the Battle of the Sudden Flame, where Melkor or Morgoth's forces broke the siege upon Angband, the keep of the Dark Lord. When the northern elven kingdoms were broken and in disarray after this battle, Lúthien and Celegorm led their kin from Himlad to Nargothrond, the elven stronghold built by Finrod Felagund. The sons of Feanor and their host came to this place as vassals, subservient to King Finrod, but both Lúthien and Celegorm desired to one day take Nargothrond for themselves and were biding their time until that day, according to the new Tolkien companion. This day came, as in the tale of Beren and Lúthien, King Finrod traveled with Beren to fulfill a pledge of friendship he had made to Beren's father Barahir, while both sons of Feanor tried to wrest control of the city. Lúthien and Celegorm played into the fears of the elves in Nargothrond, usurping Finrod's power. The two sons came to have control in the city for a time, until word came of Finrod's heroism and death. At this, the elves, now led by King Orodreth, disregarded Lúthien and Celegorm, casting them out of the city. If you would like to hear more about the tale of Beren and Lúthien, I'll leave a link in the description below to a video that I did about it. This is where Celebrimbor's story truly begins, as he renounces his father, Lúthien, and his actions, knowing the disgrace of his family, and he remained in Nargothrond while his father and uncle left the city alone. Even though Celebrimbor bore the heritage and appearance of Feanor's family, he was an elf of respect, kindness, and honor, though he carried the same determination and ambitions and craft that Feanor had. Celebrimbor and many of the Noldor stayed in the city throughout much of the First Age, until the sack of Nargothrond, when Celebrimbor and many of his kin had already retreated outside of the war in the coastlands, coming eventually to Middle-earth and Eregion. However, as with many parts of the First Age, there is conflicting information regarding some of Celebrimbor's whereabouts during the First Age before going to Middle-earth. There are notes in the chapter The History of Galadriel and Celeborn from the Unfinished Tales that state Celebrimbor may have been a smith in Gondolin during the First Age, after he moved away from Nargothrond. In these notes, he either learned under Anurdil, who was a mighty smith for King Turgon in this time, or Celebrimbor alone crafted for King Turgon. Thus, it is possible that both of the Elisar stones in the legendarium were crafted by Celebrimbor, the first in Gondolin that Arendil would take over the seas with him, and the second in the Second Age as a gift of love for Galadriel, who would eventually give it to Aragorn. Again, these accounts are possibly conflicting with the true canon, but I thought I should mention them as they do relate to Celebrimbor's history. An explanation for these conflicting notes is characters like Galadriel and Gil-Galad were first mentioned in The Lord of the Rings, but Tolkien needed to add them into the Silmarillion afterwards, changing some of the family trees and deeds of certain characters, thus explaining how Celebrimbor could have served multiple parts that Tolkien would eventually make into multiple characters. Anyways, it seems that at the end of the First Age, Celebrimbor remained in Middle-earth rather than going west with some of his kin, out of his own free will or due to his grandfather's oath that disgraced his descendants. Either way, in the Second Age, Celebrimbor became the mightiest elven smith to still exist in Middle-earth. He went with other Noldorian elves to Eregion, living in Ost-in-Edhil, the capital city of the region. As he was also the greatest smith, he led the Gwath I Nirdain, the guild of elven craftsmen in Eregion. Being the leader of these elves in a fiefdom of Gil-Galad, Celebrimbor befriended the dwarves of Khazad-dûm in the east. With the dwarf Narvi, Celebrimbor forged the doors of Durin that would guard the west gate of Khazad-dûm. In Eregion, the elves lived in peace until a Maya craftsman came in the year 1200 of the Second Age to subvert the elves and rule Middle-earth through them. He called himself Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, and said he was an emissary of the Valar, offering his knowledge to Celebrimbor and his elves. He appeared as one of the Vanyar, the fairest race of High Elves. The elves of Eregion saw this and accepted his guidance, sealing their fate. Though other elves like Galadriel did not trust this Annatar, Celebrimbor unfortunately trusted his teachings. Under his guidance, Celebrimbor and his elves crafted 16 lesser rings of power, one of which Celebrimbor may have given to King Durin III, who ruled in Khazad-dûm at this time. Celebrimbor himself had become so powerful in crafting that he alone forged the 3 Elven Rings, untouched by Sauron's malice. They were Narya, the Ring of Fire, Nenya, the Ring of Water, and Vilya, the Ring of Air. I'll leave a link in the description to a video all about these rings. Eventually, Annatar revealed himself to be Sauron, the Lieutenant of Melkor, around the year 1600 of the Second Age, when he crafted the One Ring in Orodruin, or Mount Doom. When Sauron put on the One Ring, the elves felt betrayed, so they took their rings off as to not let Sauron control them. Celebrimbor sent his great 3 Elven Rings to be hidden off with other elves. Narya went to Círdan the Shipwright, Vilya went to Gil-Galad, and Nenya to Galadriel. After these 3 were hidden, Celebrimbor and his elves of Eregion prepared for war. Thus the War of the Elves and Sauron began, and Celebrimbor defended Eregion against Sauron's attacks for a time, as that is where Sauron hit hardest. In this chaos, Celebrimbor was captured and tortured to disclose where the 16 lesser rings of power were being held, but he would not reveal the whereabouts of the great 3 Elven Rings. In the year 1697 of the Second Age, Celebrimbor died from his torment. His body was then shot with arrows and hung upon a pole as a dreadful banner to be carried by Sauron's orcs against the elves. Celebrimbor's life is indeed a sad one. It is ruled by familial destiny, bound to the fate of Feanor's direct descendants, and it is fraught with sorrow, as Celebrimbor was both trusting and skillful. He had no wife or kids to succeed him, but his kin and allies would avenge him. In my opinion, Celebrimbor's story is one of the most mournful in Tolkien's legendarium, as he had to face many perils and deceptions mostly alone. However, Celebrimbor held to his hopes, ethics, and morals until the last. He rejected the evil deeds his family had committed, and held to a life of friendships and hope, though his ambition contributed to his downfall in the end. And I think that is something we should always remember when we read about this character. Thank you all so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts about this elf and his story down below in the comments section. To communicate with me more directly, join us on Twitter and Facebook through the links in the description below, and subscribe to stay up to date with my future videos. Next week, we'll be taking a look at the early history of Gondor, and I'm really looking forward to it. In the coming days, I'll have a surprise for you all concerning this channel's music, so please look out for that. As always, thank you all for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my friends.